Thank you, Doctor. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Bassam Noor, and I'm currently the CEO and the board member at Seeku Capital, an investment firm. So which means I'm not a doctor, which means I spent the last 3-4 hours listening to a lot of doctors, cardiologists speaking about heart-related stuff. And it's fascinating and it's amazing, but I didn't understand much. So I hope my presentation, when we talk about the investment, will not give you the same feeling. So the title of the discussion today, what we want to talk about very briefly, is different than medicine. It's about investment. I called the title of the presentation The Physician Code of Investing, which is, by coincidence, is the title of a book written by Robert Duragazi, who's a cardiologist, actually. He spent a lot of time as a cardiologist, and he figured out basically that doctors are very bad in accumulating wealth. And why? The question is why, he says. I'm going to read out what he says. Remember, that's not my words, it's his words. So one is because doctors feel sense of entitlement after they finish their residency, and an ego-driven belief that their intelligence is in one area of medicine is better than the average. And the third part of the confusion of social status of wealth. This is what he says. I'm not sure if it's true or not. He's an MD, so I will leave it to him. His advice for doctors, very simple: buy less house, buy less car, don't get into debt, invest early, and I don't know why he mentions don't open a restaurant. So, do doctors open a lot of restaurants apparently? But I'm not going to go to any of these no's or do's, just only one of it, which is how to save and how to invest. So in the investment world or in the finance world, each subsection of finance, we have like a golden rule. For economists, everything is demand and supply. For an accountant, everything is asset equal liability plus debt, equity. And for investments, is risk and return. Or a different word, we call it, there's no free lunch. Everything has a price to it. So the investment, when you talk about looking at overall investment, the higher the return, the higher the risk. Or the higher the risk, higher the return. An example of an investment that is low in return and low in risk is your bank deposit. You put your money in a deposit and you will get the return that is promised. You're not going to lose your money, very unlikely for it to happen. However, the higher you go on the risk, the higher the return is. So for example, the most in terms of the risk parameters is private equity, alternative investment, and derivatives. We're not going to go through all of that, but this is just to give you an idea what we talk about. So where are doctors actually? Where do doctors invest? This is very much is based on personal interaction with a lot of doctors and some of research that has been done by economists, not by doctors, about where the doctors prefer. There's a big divergence. Either most of the doctors, they are very low risk, so they basically save their money into the bank and they do nothing about it, or they go extremely high risk type of investment. And the big circle that you see over there is not a typo, it's not a formatting issue. Because I've seen a lot of doctors, they invest in some weird stuff that I would never ever touch, but they do. I'm not really sure why. But what is risk? I think it's a very simple question. What do we mean by risk? For us, in the investment, risk is a volatility. Over here we have 3 charts. That's not an ECG or anything. This is a performance of a price. Each one of them gives a different story on risk. The one that is on your right top is for the stock market. You can see there is a bit of apologies. The first on the top right is Bitcoin. Bitcoin is the most risky type of investment for the simple reason that its price fluctuates. It could go up 10% in a single day, and it could go down 20% in a single day. For us, that is risk, the percentage of movement of a price. And we'll explain a bit later why that is important. The one on the right, the bottom, that's the S&P, which is the general for the stock market. As you can see, the volatility is less than Bitcoin. So it's less risk return. The one on the bottom left is a fixed income, debt type of investment, treasuries, sukuk, whatever you call it. Even though you can see a bit of volatility, but the price range is very narrow. So the price difference over the last 20 years has been 1% up or down, which is extremely low. Why this investment in the long run horizon is important for investing? Let's take a case of example. If you want to get some money for your retirement, you might need some money for your kids' education, you want to buy a big house, you want to do something with it. So let's take here an example of someone who's a 30 years old doctor, and he's saving around 10 to 20% of his money, but he's not investing. So he does not invest. 10, 20%, he put it on a monthly basis in the bank account until his retirement. So once he gets into his retirement, assuming he's 65 years old, the money that he's accumulated over the last 35 years, if he wants to maintain the same salary that he used to have, is going to be done in 3 years. So you either cut your expenses so you don't get on the same salary, or you do something else. But there's another solution, that you invest early, using exactly the same assumptions, the same numbers, except that the money that you set aside, you invest in a portfolio that gives you around 8% return. If you do that, upon your retirement, basically you do nothing. After your retirement, you get the same salary because of your investment that you made over the last 35 years, and it could sustain you for another 20 years, and you still have some cash left. So this is the power of investing. This is the power of compounding of the investment. Why is it important for the long run? Because in the long run, in the investment, you will always make it. You're always going to make money. Take any chart for the stock market or fixed income or any type of, let's call it mid-scale investment, you will make money. This one goes all the way to 1979. But if I get another graph from since even 1919, after the World War I, until now, you will see the same ways. Always going to go up. Yes, in between, you're going to have some collapses. You will have the financial crisis. You have the Great Depression, or any type of horror and crisis that the investment world might go through. But eventually, the market will recover. That has been true for the last 100 years, and it will continue to do. That's what brings us in terms of the volatility. Some people say, okay, if you're in the long run, things are going to go up, so let's all invest in extremely speculative, risky investment. Even if it goes down 10% tomorrow, it's going to go up a bit later. That's true. But what is the problem is that when is your retirement? Maybe by the time that you retire, the investment that you made is a time where the market is going through an economic crisis. So you need to have a very balanced type of the investment. So in the finance world, we've done the research, what kind of the model portfolio that you need to have. The simplest model is the 60 and 40. What do we mean by 60 and 40? 60% of your saving you invest in the equities, and 40% you invest in fixed income. The correlation between these two is extremely low. So if stock market collapse, the fixed income market does not collapse, and vice versa. So if you do the same thing, and if we go all the way to 1974, this kind of investment, if you did it, every year it will give you on average 10% for around 40 or 45 years. Sorry, this is just on the equities. So if you invested in equities, you give you 10%. The same one, if you do only invest in bonds, which is a very low risk, you will get 5%. So the 60-40 combine these two together, which gives you a 7.5% return, which is decent because you don't have high volatility, you don't have high risk. This is your retirement money that you're thinking of doing it in the future. This is the last slide, how to do it. Very simple. Investment, this kind of investment does not require much of your time. What you need at the end of every month, half an hour on a continuous basis. However, at the beginning that you need to do some work. You need to open an investment account in any of the brokerage places that you deal with, whether in Bahrain, Saudi, or in the US, anywhere in the world they have the brokerage account. Take your salary, divide it, or the savings that you plan to have it, and be consistent about it. If you decide to save 10% of your salary every month, stay with that 10%. Don't say, well, this month I'm planning to travel, to go somewhere here or that. That's not going to work on the long run. So you need to put that set aside. Could be 10%, 20%, 30%. That will leave it to you. Take that 10%. Every single month, invest in equity 60% and 40% into debt. And repeat. Repeat for the next 20 years, 30 years, until your retirement. And even after your retirement, you can continue investing. Every month, that's not going to take from you more than 20 to 30 minutes. We understand doctors are extremely busy, but I'm sure you guys can find 30 minutes a month to do it for your financial security. We also have our acronym, so ETF. Not only doctors have a lot of different short terms, we do have one. So ETF is one word we use, very famous. It's an exchange-traded fund. What does it mean? It's a type of investment that it will, on your behalf, does the investment into the stock market or equity. So if you go into this site, the one that I left, just ETF, you choose the ETF you want. You want to invest in the US stock market. You want to invest in the Saudi stock market. You want to invest in the world average stock market. That will leave it to you and your liking. People prefer some people prefer to have a global exposure. Some people prefer to have a local exposure. The good thing for everything that there is an ETF that you can invest in and consistently. The retirement plan that I showed over here earlier to you, you can use it for anything. I could just call it retirement, but you can use it for your investment goal, for your kids' education, and that's available on a website for Microsoft, so you can download it and plan your retirement, if anything else. And with that, I conclude my presentation. If anyone has any questions, more than happy.